Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. A warm welcome to my channel Physics for Students. My name is Shaunak. Well, today I would be talking on a very serious topic which are called interview questions for science graduates. Now, when I say science graduates, I include both physics and mathematics. There are certain questions which I have witnessed when I go to interview boards all around India and abroad, taking webinars, etc., which seems to be very simple, yet they are profoundly deep and important. Now, these questions are a little bit weird. When you will see those questions in today's video, you will see that these questions seems to be a little bit out of the box. But mind you, these questions, when you are facing for a job, either as a lecturer, researcher, data analyst, wherever, in the area of physics and mathematics, creates a very deep impact into the mind of the recruiter. What the recruiter actually wants to know are different things, and what you are replying is on a different objective. I would be taking around 11 to 12 questions in a series of videos, and I would be taking 2 questions at a time. Now you might ask me the question why. The reason is that these questions need to be discussed a little bit more into a longer and a very deep and a lengthier way. Now, these questions I'm taking in a series of 3 or 4 or 5 videos where I would be discussing, and the entire pattern of the discussion would be this. So the pattern would be why the recruiter is asking the question, that is number 1. Second is what is the objective. Now, the reason the recruiter is asking and the objective are not the same, as you will see. Third is that what are the possible mistakes that you can make while answering these questions. Fourth would be the sample answer, which you can customize based on the type of interview you're facing. And finally, the key takeaway. That means what you learn or what you learned from this type of questions. So I would be taking one by one because the objective and the reason the recruiter is asking, the way you're answering, the sample answers, the possible mistakes you would make, and finally the key takeaway, all of this actually makes up a complete answer. Again, as I told you, that if you open up any book for science or mathematics graduate and you think that, okay, let me see where are these questions, you won't find it. These are my experiences over conducting numerous webinars across the world, going to Bangalore, Hyderabad and different parts of India, facing the interviews, talking to the recruiters, sitting on the interview board and finding out that these could be the possible problems. So without wasting much of a time, let us go ahead and first see what is the question, and I will take up 2 questions or 3 maximum in one interview, otherwise it would be too long. So let us get starting. The first question, let us start with something related to physics. And when we talk of physics, we know Newtonian mechanics and it talks about gravity. First question coming up right on your screen. If you could explain gravity to a 5-year-old, how would you do it? Now, the key part in this type of a question is that you are going to explain it to a 5-year-old kid. Obviously, you're not going to teach a 5-year-old kid about gravity, but this is what the recruiter is asking. The moment you face this type of question, there are 2 things which should ring in your mind. Number 1, why the recruiter is asking to explain to a 5-year-old kid. The second is that what is the approach and what is the way in which I would be answering. So as I told you, this seems to be very plain and simple, but here are the reasons why the recruiter is asking. Now, right on the screen, you can see that the recruiter is asking, number 1, to test your communication skill, evaluate adaptability, assess creativity, and judge your patience and empathy. Now, first thing is that why communication skill? Because you would be working in the area of physics. But whatever the amount of knowledge that you carry, until and unless you are able to communicate that to the mass, then you are not a good physicist or a researcher. So obviously, the communication pattern of teaching gravity to a 5-year-old kid is very important. So communication skill, because your way of understanding might be up to general theory of relativity, but what the recruiter is asking, that do you have the capacity or adaptability power to teach to a 5-year-old kid? That is important. Assess creativity, because you cannot tell F equals to ma or the Newtonian mechanics or metric tensor whatsoever. So how creative you are, and are you really patient? Are you empathetic, that if the child is not going to understand, do you have that kind of a patience? So this is basically what I told, that why the recruiter is asking. These are the things that the recruiters are going to test, whether you have those qualities: empathy, communication skill, ABCD. The second is that what the recruiter is objective is. Objective means what the recruiter would expect out of you. Right on the screen you see, you should be able to simplify complex ideas. It should be relating science to real life experiences. And do you have potential teaching skills? Now hold on, this potential teaching skills doesn't mean that you're going as a teacher, but you can be a researcher, you can be a physicist, but again you have to counsel or mentor maybe your junior. So these three important ideas: simplification of ideas, complex ideas, relating to science, and potential teaching skills. Now, I will come to the next part. So we are done with the reason the recruiter is asking, what is the objective the recruiter is looking within you, and then what are the mistakes that you can make, because you are very overexcited because you know so much about physics. But don't get overexcited. Try to adapt to the situation. The mistake that you are going to make, as you can see on the screen, first is you use a lot of jargons, that means technical physics terms. You misinterpret the concept and you ignore the child's perspective. As a teacher or as a trainer, we often try to say or try to express what we know, but that is not important. What is important is that, is it the child's perspective? Am I coming down to the level of the child and teaching it? So these are few of the things that you need to keep in your mind. Now, what are the sample answers? Let me tell you. Number one, you can see here on the screen. Now, you can change it obviously. Gravity is like an invisible glue that keeps everything from floating away. For example, when you throw a ball in the air, the gravity pulls it back down. Without it, and I would be floating in the space like balloons. Now, note one thing, that this simple answer doesn't misinterpret anything. Number one, it doesn't use any jargons. Number two, and it uses an analogy that is very much similar and relatable in our daily life. And what is that? That is called an invisible glue. So this could be another way of answering gravity to a 5-year-old kid. Now, the reason is that the person, remember, it is not important that you are teaching to a 5-year-old kid, etc. But what the objective of asking this question is that whether the recruiter can see within you, number one, adaptability, empathy, explaining complex ideas in a simple manner, and not misinterpreting the basic idea of gravity. So these are the things that should be present. Number two, now here what the recruiter is what you are doing is that instead of telling that invisible glue, etc., you are extrapolating, or you are extending the thought pattern of that particular 5-year-old kid. So here you are saying this: imagine you're holding a toy car and rolling it off a ramp. The car comes down to the ground, right? That is because gravity is always pulling things towards the earth. It is like a big invisible hand gently holding everything down. So the moment you say imagine, I remember of Imagine of John Lennon. But anyway, so imagine you are holding, imagine things are doing. That means you are making the child think. So that is also another way of answering. Third answer right on the screen is that gravity is like a magnet. It is what keeps your feet on the ground. Without it, you would be floating like an astronaut in a space. So an astronaut, how it floats, the kid might have seen in movies or in Netflix, etc. So he can relate to that astronauts floating in the space with the thing which is called gravity, without which you would be floating. And right now you're not floating because of this. So if you look into the answer, the first answer is something which you're trying to teach with an invisible glue. The second answer, what you're doing is that you are making the child to think. And the third answer that you're giving is that you're trying to relate something the child has seen either in movie or otherwise. And this would happen if the concept of gravity was not there. So what is the key takeaway? Now, just concentrate right on your screen. The key takeaway is the answer should balance scientific accuracy. Line number one. So that means what? That means you cannot give just an answer because you're teaching to a 5-year-old kid. No. So it should balance with scientific accuracy. That means that glue, the magnet, etc. These are all something which is relatable to scientific accuracy. Simplicity and engagement. Now, what is simplicity? The magnet, the glue. What is the engagement? The engagement is that think yourself just like an astronaut. So the recruiter, when he or she is asking you this question, the recruiter is also gauging or checking within you that whether you can engage it or is it just a monotonous lecture. If you are engaging whether that engagement is simple or not, because a 5-year-old kid won't understand. And the next line it tells that a recruiter will value explanation that are not just correct but also imaginative and tailored to the audience's level. This was what I was speaking to a webinar in Vietnam a few days back, that whatever answers that you are providing, it should be tailored to the level. So a 5-year-old kid, a 50-year-old person, a 45-year-old person, or an 18-year teenager, the audience is different. So your answer has to be tailored. Showing excitement and empathy is just as important as getting the physics right. That means you're generating that excitement like a magnet. What would happen? You are actually pulling the imagination power of the child to that level. As that is important, getting the physics done is also important. Now, after this key takeaway, the first thing that comes into your mind is that, will I be explaining gravity to a 5-year-old kid? No. You can be doing a research. You are into physics as a theoretical physicist. You can be an experimental physicist. You can be anything. But this power of not using jargons, not misinterpreting, not using too much of complex ideas, engaging with simplicity, this might carry very good examples in your career when you're doing as a data analyst, career when you're doing a theoretical physics, LHC or cosmology or particle physics or beyond the standard model whatsoever. I'll tell you, in the very recent podcast, there was a person called Dr. Alessio Mastrodi coming from Italy, where he spoke basically about particle physics and particularly about quantum chromodynamics and axions, if you remember. Dr. Mastrodi's basic key point was to use this kind of simple clear analogies as put up by Richard Feynman, that if you cannot explain it to your 5-year-old kid, it actually tests at any level, PhD, postdoctoral, whatever, your communication, your adaptability, your empathy, your patience, your engagement, and your simplicity. I hope you can take a lesson that it might not be the same question, but something different. But these are the important parameters which would be required, and the recruiter would check within you whether these things are present or not. The second question, now that we have done a little bit of physics, why don't we go into mathematics? This is a very important, very fundamental, very deep-rooted question. Right on your screen, you can see, why do you think 0 is considered as one of the most important numbers in mathematics? Now, this can actually lead to a lot of philosophical implications, and that is exactly the error or the problem that the candidates make. This question I'm not telling was actually asked in a very reputed organization, and I have seen the problem that the candidate has faced. Now, when we talk of the importance of 0, there are a lot of things which comes into our mind. But why the recruiter is asking 0, not others? First of all, let us learn that. Right on the screen, the recruiter is asking to test your conceptual understanding, to assess critical thinking, ability to explain abstract ideas. Obviously, it would have been algebra or something else. It would have not been so much of, I would say, abstract as the concept of explaining 0. So, number one is that when you're facing this question, your ability to, extract the abstract idea. And secondly is that how fundamental, how deep-rooted your understanding of mathematics is. Now, this is why the recruiter. Now, again, coming to the next, what is the objective? That means what the recruiter expect from you. Number one, that whether you know mathematics sufficient or not, evaluation. Second, obviously, again, it would be communication skill. And third would be critical thinking. Let us see what are the mistakes that you would make. Number one is that obviously when it is a concept of zero, which is around everywhere, you are going to oversimplify it. So as you can see on the screen, oversimplification, overloading with jargons, missing key points, and giving a one-dimension answer. We will come to this, what we mean by it. One dimension answer means it is only related to just mathematics or pure numericals. No, the answer should be all pervading. It should cover up other things also. Okay. So first of all, let us see the answers. Then we will understand the possibility, the real reason behind it. Okay. Right on the screen, you can see zero is a revolutionary because it is allowed for the development of the place value system. I will take a pause over here. Now, place value system is extremely important. So first you are citing not something abstract, but something very concrete. That zero acts as an important part in the place value system. Let us go back to the answer, which is the foundation of modern arithmetic. Obviously, it is a foundation. Without zero, we would not have efficient ways to write large numbers or perform calculations. For instance, the number 100 only makes sense because of the placeholder rules of zero. Now, if you go back to this video immediately, you will see what I have told, that oversimplification. Because zero is such a number that it is present everywhere in every part of our life. So you might get a very simple oversimplified answer or philosophical answer or a very abstract answer. This is what the students make a mistake. So first you need to be very concrete, ground rooted, and tell that it is acting as a placeholder. Done. That means first you have shown what is the practical implication of zero, why it is considered to be important. Point number two, sample answer. Zero is the centerpiece of algebra as it defines the solutions of many equations. I'm not reading it, you can read that. It is also crucial in calculus and the concept of limits often evolve. So again you are saying something very concrete, that in algebra, in calculus, the concepts of limit, approaching zero, etc. are very important. Now why? Again, because calculus is very practical. Without that, how would we get to infinity and approaching zero, all those stuff? So sample answer number two also proves something, and it says over here is that zero is a both number and a concept. Now this is where actually you can actually blend all those three answers into single one. You can even write back to me. I will try to respond to that. So first you have told it is a placeholder. Second, you have told the foundations in terms of algebra, calculus, tending towards zero, etc. And now you are saying that it is both a concept as well as a... So it represents nothingness, but also serves as the dividing line between positive and negative numbers. Obviously, it is zero. Even in Vedas, it is called as Purnamidam Purnasya. Anyway, so that is, it is coming as a kind of a dividing the day and the night, the positive and the negative. Now, the good part of this answer, what I can tell you is that nowhere it actually talks about something abstract. Although it takes a very abstract concept, which is the concept of zero. So first it was a placeholder, second it was calculus, algebra, tending towards zero. Then it has told that it is both a concept as well as a number, and without all those, the entire finance, the entire technology systems would collapse. So nowhere you are giving any abstract answer. And that is the beauty. I mean to say, no recruiter actually wants to, listen to something philosophical. No, you are not going as a philosophy teacher. You are going as a science and as a science graduate. So things should be very practical and ground rooted, although the concepts are very abstract. Okay, let us go to what is the key takeaway. This is important. A strong answer should highlight zero's foundational role. Again, why zero is so foundational, that needs to be highlighted. Versatility, it is very versatile, and real world impact. As I was telling, algebra, calculus, technology, finance, all are real world applications, while also demonstrating a deep association for its contribution to mathematics and science, which you have done. The ability to tie the concept to practical applications and historical innovation will make this answer stand out. I have, although not mentioned much about the historical development, you can go from the Babylonian, the Egyptian, then the Vedas, and further on that how the historical development. Remember, whatever the abstract the recruiter is asking, you have to show something which is very ground rooted. So first question was typically on physics, which was how to explain gravity to a 5-year-old kid, where I actually demonstrated to you the simplicity yet getting the physics right, the way of answering. Second question was very deep rooted to the philosophy of mathematics, although you are not saying anything philosophical, but trying to show a kind of a bridge between the philosophical understanding with the practical life. So we will take a pause in today's video. As I told that these are two ways, there should be two questions for each video. Now the other questions which are coming up in the next video are very, very important. These are again very deep rooted in terms of quantum mechanics, mathematics and everything. So stay tuned for the next video. I hope you liked it. Please do let me know about your comment and do subscribe to my channel, Physics for Students. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.